said that. Another priest said, yeah, you're right. Another priest didn't say anything. I mean, I've been to several priests, okay? And one of them said maybe. When I told him flat out, I was a heretic. When I was going to Protestant church, I was a Protestant. I was a heretic. And I was mortal, I believe that was mortal sin.
And he told you no, it wasn't.
He just looked at me. He says, maybe. He says, we don't know pretty much what the Vatican II people are saying about calling Protestants Christians when they're not.
Yeah.
God, he said, well, God knows. Like, I said, well, wait a minute. I said, I believe, I told him, I believe that when I was out there as a Protestant, I was a heretic and I was committing mortal sin. And he just looked at me. He goes, maybe. That scared me. Okay? Well, and this is all about the Vatican II thing, right? I mean, it's...
Well, that's definitely consistent with the heretical teaching of Vatican II. And it's a byproduct of that false council. Now, you're saying that you came back to the faith through our material?
I came back to the faith. First, I went back to Mass. I went to church. And then and when I went back to church, I started noticing different things in the Mass that, like altar girls, I was floored. I was absolutely floored. Altar girls, and then, well, just everything about the new Mass. I mean, the everything. And then I found your article, your website on the internet, and I started reading, and I thought, oh, wow! I was amazed. I was floored. I was just totally. And now, the more I read, and the more I know, and the more people I talk to, the more terrified I am, brother. I am scared to death.
Scared of what?
Well, I'm scared that they're all going to burn in hell.
Oh, that you were or that you are?
Well, that I was and that they are.
Well, yes. These things are serious.
Huh?
These matters are very serious.
And they say, so now they're calling me a fanatic. They're saying, oh, you're being fanatic. I'm like, wait a minute. We're talking about eternity here. We're not talking about, going to the store and buying shoes. We're talking about eternity. Anyway.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear that you came across the information, that you've embraced the traditional faith, and it's encouraging to hear. What I was
the people I feel sorry for are the people that grew up in the Vatican II sect. Those are the people I feel sorry for.
Well,
because they never knew what it was like before that.
Well, no, they do know, because if they had any interest, it's not difficult to find out what the Church has historically taught. And it's a situation where if they embrace the core heresies of the Vatican II Church, which are religious indifferentism, salvation outside the Church, there's truly no excuse for that, and that's incompatible with the possession of faith. And someone who is of the truth will immediately have a problem with that kind of theology, that kind of heresy. And if they have any interest, they'll investigate, well, what has the Church historically taught about other religions? Has the Church historically looked upon these other religions with respect? Is it necessary to be Catholic? And because they lack that basic interest, they sin mortally. You can sin through sloth, through a failure to do basic things that you should do. So they're not going to be condemned because they don't know the precise canons of certain councils. They're going to be condemned because they embrace things that are directly contrary to even a basic knowledge of the gospel and historic Catholicism.
Brother, I went to Catholic school and a Catholic high school, and I remember distinctly we were taught there is no salvation outside the Catholic Church. I remember that like it's yesterday. I had lunch with a friend of mine who's a Catholic, went to high school with. He believes that Protestants will be saved. And I sat there stunned, and I said, "What? Ernest?" I said, "Ernest," I said, we were taught all through Catholic school. He's my age, I'm 57. We were taught all through Catholic school, there's only one way to salvation, that's Catholic Church. He goes, well, yeah, but, you know. And I'm like, I was sitting there in shock, and I'm thinking, he's not alone. There are a lot of people like that.
Well, even when you were taught that, there's no salvation outside the church, they were emptying that truth of its meaning. Because even back then, they were holding that, yes, there's no salvation outside the church, but that doesn't really mean that all non-Catholics are excluded. And that's what the book, Outside the Church, There's Absolutely No Salvation, covers, how the breakdown of that dogma occurred before Vatican II. So...
Well, just to let you know, I had a discussion with my mother this morning about this very issue, and I told her it was heresy to believe otherwise. And she goes, well, I don't see what's wrong as long as you believe in Jesus. And I'm like, oh, I've got to pray for her now.
Yeah, and one thing I would say, and I think you realize this, but it's a typical situation where people become sometimes focused on or consumed with converting their family members, and obviously you should make a strong effort to do so. But once you've done it, once you've tried, you can't fixate on that because you can't force them to believe. You have to focus on what you have to do. And that's why Jesus says in Matthew 10 that, a man's enemies will be those of his own household, because it frequently happens that people deviate from the course God wants because they're just so focused on their family members. And so I wouldn't let it deter you from what you should do.
Well, I'm convinced that whoever is occupying Rome right now, the Vatican, that they're an apostasy.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that we are in the last days, and it's not going to be long. I don't know how long. Of course, nobody knows, but I'm very, very concerned. This. I've never been so concerned in my whole life as I am now.
Well, it's a special grace to have the realization of that truth. It really is, and so it, in one sense, it's depressing a little bit when you consider the darkness of the spiritual situation, but in another sense, it should be exciting that you know the truth and that you can do something about it. And so,
well, I can do something about it for myself, but I'm trying to get my kids. I guess I can only do what you suggested, and that is just tell them and then just let it go if they resist.
Right. You can't let them control your life or let them become the focus of your life when they're not willing to help themselves. You try to help them, and then you move on. It's really that simple.
Well, one of the things too, brother, that I see from your website that has helped me tremendously is how evil this world is. How evil it is. I had no idea.
And
I had no idea.
And the people, how dishonest they are. That's really, as you deal more directly with people and you deal with matters of truth, that's one thing you see over and over again, that almost everyone is a liar. And so, yeah, it's a grace. That's why coming to the truth is going from darkness to light, because the people who are in the dark, they can't see what's going on. And so it's when you come to the light that you realize what's going on. The light comes on. You can see things that you never knew existed.
Yes, and even things about myself that are not pleasant.
Well, self-knowledge actually is the one of the first keys to, like St. Louis de Montfort points out in True Devotion to Mary, that self-knowledge is a special grace, and it's one of the first things you focus on. And
one more thing, brother, and I'll let you go. I know you're busy. In going through this change and going back to the church and realizing that that's really all that matters, okay? It has totally rearranged my perspective and my priority in my life, and it's a very lonely place to be because the Bible said, Jesus says, the few will be saved. Few. When he talks about the broad road and when he talks about the gate is narrow. Small, and the road is narrow.
Yeah.
Few there are that find it. He's not kidding. I guess because the people around me don't believe as I do, and I'm real careful now about who I tell because of the kind of reactions I've gotten. I just don't share this with everybody anymore because people, like you say, people just...
You don't share what... You should share it.
Well, I mean, I share it in a different... I use different approaches now. I'm not as... I don't know.
You're not as what?
Well, I'm becoming an outcast.
Well, that's... So what?
The only times I feel any kind of solace or comfort is when I'm praying.
Well, I wouldn't be reluctant to share your faith. You need to preach. You need to try to convert people. That's an obligation, especially with people you know well. And that's one of the problems today. We have almost no one who evangelizes. And so you definitely want to distribute materials, recommend the website, obtain extra copies of the materials. That's why we offer them for basically nothing, so that you can give them to your friends. But if you recommend the website, that's what people need to do. That's very important.
The website is shocking. I'm going to say that. It's shocking because, especially like me, somebody who came out of the darkness back into the light, and see that I don't even have words to explain it. I used to listen to the Catholic radio station, EWTN. I don't listen to it as much anymore because it's chock full of heretics. I can't believe the stuff they're saying on there. I cannot believe it.
There are some truly unbelievable heresies uttered by members of EWTN, like Benedict Groeschel. Lots of them, but they're truly astounding, some of the heresies.
Well, for the Pacwa, I heard him last night. He was saying that a Protestant could go to heaven.
Just last night.
Yes.
Benedict Groeschel?
No, this was Father Pacwa.
Oh, Pacwa. Oh, Pacwa. Yeah.
You know him?
Yes, I'm familiar with him.
And he's calling Protestants Christians.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
That's Vatican II. Vatican II teaches they're incorporated into Christ. That's it. We just had a debate on Vatican II. We posted. I don't know if you heard it.
Well, I've read I've read a lot, and I've listened to the. Oh, by the way, I got a brown scapular. Do I have to get it blessed by a validly ordained priest before I can use it?
No, you can just wear it.
Okay. I got that, and I do the rosary, and my closest family members, I have shared this with them. What I'm sharing with you, what I mean about this discovery about the Vatican II heresy and all that, and I've told them that, and about the rosary, and so the closest people to me already know where I stand. So it's not like they don't know.
Well, but you probably have some friends and acquaintances that you have contact with currently.
Well, I have people I work with. I have people at... Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, those kinds of people you need to try to convert.
And you know what, brother? Since this has happened, I look at the care, when Jesus says the cares of this world can choke out the word. That's beginning to resonate with me, and I'm beginning to understand that, because so many people are just worried about this world and about what's going to happen in this world. And I'm trying to, and I try to tell them, look, there's more to this world's passing. It's passing.